disrupted.
America that I fought.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So, Alberta recently just had a provincial election. They re-elected Danielle Smith as premier. Now, I don't know much about her. I haven't really looked closely at who she is, but there was one thing that really surfaced, and what caught my eye was the first time any person of politics here in Canada actually took a second to apologize for the crazy havoc of the COVID-19 lockdowns. I have not seen this in any form by any politician in this nation. And it's something to take note of. The fact that someone's willing to step to the plate, admit that they may have screwed up, they were, did not know what was happening, the same as I did at the beginning of this, until I looked under the curtain, I peeked under the rug and figured out exactly how this COVID mess was to be and how we were propagated and fear-mongered and manipulated to segregate people and force down this big pharmaceutical agenda that was so powerful and corrupted that they bought every member of parliament, every member of the White House, every member of all the governments around the world to create this global-wide corrupted regime over people. And how the lockdowns and the mandates were unscientifically proven. They did not help people. And there was actually reports that came out last year during the Freedom Convoy and the trucker protests that stated that the lockdowns and mandates were proven ineffective to people and were actually more damaging to people and communities all around us. It was more damaging for people that they were locked inside their house. They weren't able to see family. They weren't able to see friends. They weren't able to work. They weren't able to run their own businesses. And was more damaging, both psychologically and physically, to people than what most people realize. And, at first I was on the board of, not understanding this and, thinking that, I was scared. I went and got the vaccine. I went and got, 2 shots of the Pfizer because I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't really, at first, did not take a deeper look into COVID. But once I did, after my second shot and having the adverse side effects of the second shot, I realized, and I kind of kicked myself more, that I didn't see this beforehand. And a lot of people have not, were kind of late to the party and did not see it until later on. And there's just a lot of confusion to that. And anyway, here's what Danielle Smith said to her own people, apologizing for the crazy mandates and the fact that people were locked down and arrested. Let's not forget, people were arrested during the COVID-19 pandemic for organizing parties or practicing their religion or just getting together in general. These were people that were silenced out, they were suppressed, they were penalized, they were beaten up and abused, and fed horrible misinformation. So this is what the premier of Alberta is saying right now to people.
I'm deeply sorry for anyone who was inappropriately subjected to discrimination as a result of their vaccine status. I'm deeply sorry for any government employee that was fired from their job because of their vaccine status. And I welcome them back if they want to come back. I'm deeply.
Now, that gives me some bit of hope. Like I said, I don't know exactly much about Danielle Smith, but the fact that she stepped to the plate and admitted that she was wrong and felt a consciousness to apologize to people, I can at least respect that. And I feel the same. The same goes for anybody else. You know, the people that were sucked into this propaganda, sucked into the fear mongering, and did not see it through at first, but then came around. You know, I can respect those people. You know, I was on the same boat as you, so I can feel some of that tolerance. What I can't, and when I will never get an apology for, is the people that deliberately smear you, or they hate on you, or they discriminate you because you did your own research. Those are the people that need to step up to the plate. They will never step up to the plate. They're trying to, rewrite history and correct their wrongs and say, well, we didn't promote this at first. They were trying to hide away from the fact that they were the ones doing the evil wrongdoing and smearing people and silencing people and discriminating their own friends and family, segregating their own members of the community, deliberately doing that and still continuing to do so. That is what I can't come to, I can't, some people may have that, take the higher road. And I can, I can understand when people know that, they were just caught in the middle of this and, just caught in the moment. I can understand that because I at first I was that same person, but I cannot ever come to terms and accept the fact that people were deliberately, and people that knew better, were deliberately hating on their own members of the community because of a lie, because of a scam, and because they purposely wanted to repeat misinformation to the point where they were screaming and yelling at people, including myself, for doing their own research, for reading, for taking advice from doctors, from taking advice from medical professionals, getting a second opinion. They got angry at people that were looking for a second opinion or questioning the science. I can't. Because those people will still continue to discriminate. And people may be shaking their heads thinking like, oh, there's no discrimination. There was nothing harmful what we did to society. So, luckily, Milk Bar TV did this compilation of the mistreatment that we have done to people all around the world based off this fear-mongering campaign, based off big pharmaceuticals, based off all this, misfed information, all this misinformation, and how we just segregated people and made it an absolute living hell of society. Like I said, when they wrote the reports of the lockdown, it was the National Post that printed this out. The National Post proved that the lockdowns and mandates were more harmful than COVID. They were more harmful psychologically and damaging physically to lock people up and fearmonger and stress them out and all these masks and everything else. It did more damage that way than the actual virus, which is what doctors were trying to explain to people. They were trying to explain the actual effects of the virus. They were trying to understand the virus, because once we understood the virus, then we might be able to actually effectively treat the virus. But they lied. They lied and they silenced out those people to push this narrative. And this is the discrimination that Danielle Smith and myself and other people are talking about when it came to the pandemic. Take a look.
The community that faced the most restrictions on their freedoms in the last year were those who made a choice not to be vaccinated.
Premier of Quebec, François Legault, announcing a Canadian first that the province is looking to implement a special tax on the unvaccinated unless they have a medical exemption.
Nation by nation, Europe is turning into a two-tiered society in which those who refuse to be vaccinated will live under lockdown without full access to society or jobs, facing fines and even jail.
Tonight, millions of unvaccinated Austrians on lockdown for at least the next 10 days. An order from the government as the country tries to slow the spread of the coronavirus.
The unvaccinated have already been in lockdown for almost a month. And next year will have to pay $4,000 in fines every 3 months unless they not only get vaccinated, but get booster shots. Germany's COVID restrictions have been so draconian, this German mother says her 10-year-old daughter wants to die.
The Philippine Commission on Human Rights warning government about implications of President Duterte's order to bar unvaccinated people from going outdoors. The CHR says the order may result in undue discrimination.
Probably don't see it like this as two different classes of people. If you're vaccinated or if you're unvaccinated, you have all these rights. If you are vaccinated...
That is what it is. So, yep.
The vaccine mandate has kicked in for more than 1 million authorised workers, no longer allowed on site if they haven't had a jab.
If an employer allows an unvaccinated staff member on site, they can be fined more than $21,000 and the business will be hit with almost a $110,000 fine. Workers who falsely claim they've had the jab will wear a $10,000 fine.
There's people that don't want this mandatory vaccine. How do we manage this?
Well, then they won't be going to work.
Okay.
It's very, very simple.
But don't think you can get on a plane or a train besides vaccinated people and put them at risk.
Queensland is punishing unvaccinated teachers, docking their pay for the next 18 weeks. Okay, so we think it's safe enough for you to come in and to teach our kids in the classroom, to do the job, but we're not going to pay you what we pay the other teachers. I don't know about this.
The fingerprints of unvaccinated teachers in New York City were allegedly sent to the FBI with problem codes flagged on them.
When the city puts these problem codes on employees who have been terminated because of their unconstitutional policies, not only do they have this flag in their files, but their fingerprints are sent with that flag to the FBI and the New York Criminal Justice Services.
With every teacher job, fingerprints are essential. So whatever job I decide to pursue, they will have to get my fingerprints and do the necessary search to see if there are any flags. And now I know I have these flags.
Anka Mrak-Taritaš, 4. studeni 2021. Citiram, sada je trenutak da se kaže ljudima, ne možete više nigdje ako niste cijepljeni.
This morning, it's a race against time for DJ Ferguson and his family. The 31-year-old father of 2 with a third baby on the way desperately needs a heart transplant. But his mother says Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston says DJ can't receive an organ donation because he won't get a COVID vaccine.
It is almost common policy to say, if you don't have all your vaccinations, including COVID, you're going to be less eligible for a transplant than other people who are going to do better with a scarce heart.
Dr. Berecki, 23. travnja, citiram, svijet bi bio puno ljepši bez necijepljenih. Sramite se. Sram neka vas bude.
So they have been the most discriminated against group that I've ever witnessed in my lifetime. That's a pretty extreme level of discrimination that we have seen. But this has been an extraordinary time in the last year in particular.
I honestly don't know how people sat through this year after year, seen this all in a montage, and not get outraged. Because I'm frustrated, I'm outraged, because these people knew better. They knew that they were lying to. They purposely lied to you. They purposely did not tell you the truth to enforce an agenda, to enforce tyranny. They purposely did this to you. And I don't know how people can just take it. I don't know how people can still, even after all this, even after all the reports, after everything that we have uncovered involving COVID, the lockdowns, mandates, ivermectin, vitamin C, vitamin D, everything that we were lied to, uncovering the truth of this pandemic, everything that we have uncovered, I don't know if people could still be comfortable with this. Just go with the flow with this. Just, shut up and get into line with the measures that they took. This is the most inhumane, discriminative thing in the last few years that they've done to people. You heard the guy there saying that the world would be a nicer place if there weren't the unvaccinated people. He was saying that about eradicating a populace because they wouldn't comply with a pharmaceutical agenda. How is that not? How does that not make you mad? How does that not make you angry and outraged and just piss you off to the point that you have no trust, no respect for these people? I give a little credit to Danielle Smith for recognizing that these draconian measures to the point where a little girl wanted to kill herself is discrimination and apologized for it. I can give some respect to that. But to the rest of them, to the rest of the people that still continue to shame, that still continue to oppress and epitomize people and segregate them and vilify people and throw them under the bus. Your own friends and families and neighbors still continuing to scream at the top of their lungs and push them down because you've been propagandized by a big pharmaceutical industry. I don't know what's it going to take? What's it going to take for you to open your eyes and realize? Or maybe you're just destined to fall into the traps of an evil empire, an evil global empire. Maybe you really are just a sheep. Maybe you just follow the herd and you just don't care. You're just completely brainless to examining what's happening right under your nose, right in front of you. See with your own eyes what we did to the general population as a whole. People like Noam Chomsky telling that unvaccinated people don't deserve food, don't deserve clean water, that we should send them off to a different place to let them survive and starve. Noam Chomsky, one of the greatest political minds, said that because he was sucked into this propaganda. People that knew better. And that's what I can't respect. That's what I can't tolerate anymore. Because those same people are still the same people that attack someone like me or anybody else that's providing context or a clear perspective of exactly what is happening in front of them. But they're so brain dead and cultish, following down this rabbit hole, not realizing that they are their own problem, and causing more chaos than than this entire virus ever created. It is just diabolically disturbing. And I feel bad that people got sucked into this. And if there are some people that have apologized for pushing this agenda, and I'll accept that apology. I'll accept that. I feel sorry. I feel sorry for what before I got clear about COVID. I apologize for pushing this narrative. But to anybody else even at this time, still being the tyrant, still being the medical watchdog, still snitching on people, for shame. And I hope you do some real goddamn soul searching to realize what a piece of garbage human you are. How despicable you are. How you are the real true evil of society. All these little tyrants out there that are, you know, censoring people and silencing people and say, oh, you can't talk about, how dare you mention, and wagging the finger at people. Saying that you can't have a livelihood. You can't go outside. You can't join your family members at a restaurant. You can't do that. No. Still vilifying people. I have lost all respect and patience. And you're never going to apologize. They still will never apologize. They try to rewrite the wrong and say that they never did, but they're never going to come to terms. They're never going to apologize. They're never going to learn their lesson. They're just going to, you know, white out their mistakes and pretend that nothing happened. And I don't know how people can do that after something like this. So I also want to mention this too, because another reason why Danielle Smith is apologizing is because there has been a video that got resurfaced. And it says Danielle Smith apologizes for comparing COVID vaccinated to Nazi followers in 2021 via 21 video. It says multiple groups condemned the Alberta Premier's comments, including B'nai B'rith Canada, the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, and the Royal Canadian Legion. Now, she may apologize for the wording that she says, but what you just saw there in the montage, you know, it was a cult-like behavior. It was a following. It was people, you know, promoting medical fascism against their own populace. It was people that were discriminating to the point that they wanted to exterminate people. To the point where Jimmy Kimmel on a late night show said that the unvaccinated should just die on the street. They don't deserve health care because they're unvaxxed. They're not part of the club. They're not part of our society. And because of that, we need to discriminate them. We need to get them away from society. We need to exacerbate and get rid of them. So, Danielle Smith may apologize for what she said in that video. But considering what we've lived through, I don't blame her. I don't blame her that people were sucked in to this cult-like behavior, could still continue to be cult followers, and being little tyrants, screaming, yelling at their friends and family, their brothers and sisters in their communities for an outrageous criminal lie that no one has been held accountable for. No one. They did not prosecute Fauci. They have not prosecuted Bill Gates. They have not prosecuted Pfizer. They have not prosecuted anyone in the FDA. They have not prosecuted not a single soul that purposely lied to you. That purposely lied to you on a global scale. Not just national, on a global scale. They have not issued any apology, any accountability whatsoever. I don't know what's going to take for people to wake up to this. Because like I said, once I took a peek at the corner, once I figured out what was going on, why things the way they were, and took a second to actually realize how this is all connected, that's when I realized. That's what woke me up to realize that this is all just a complete corrupted regime used to epitomize people, used to segregate societies, and how it was all the evil schematics of the big pharmaceutical companies that still to this day, are doing their evil criminal work because they got away with this. So kudos to Danielle Smith for apologizing, but I'm sure, like me, the rest of you are pissed off at just how many years we have suffered through this, and they're still trying to promote this. There's still people out there that are so ridiculous that we need another lockdown in 2023. After how many people have gotten Omicron, including myself? I got 2 vaccinations, and I still caught COVID myself, and I got through it. Everybody else got through it, and what doctors and medical researchers are continuing to find is that COVID is going to be around forever, just like a type of influenza, and it's going to get weaker and weaker and weaker. More contagious, but weaker strains. That is what medical professionals are saying. But of course, I'll remind people that the important part is that vaccines are safe and effective, and I don't know if any of this is true, but I'm just saying this is what people are saying. You decide for yourselves, but I'll say the vaccines are safe and effective and highly recommend it. Because why not?